In the heart of a relentless blizzard that howled like a wounded beast through the narrow streets of Willow Creek, Elena Ramirez stood alone at the frosted window of her modest two-story home, watching as the world outside dissolved into a swirling abyss of white. The snow had come without mercy that evening, blanketing the town in feet of unforgiving powder, shutting down roads, power lines, and any semblance of normal life. But for Elena, it was more than a storm. It was a cruel reminder of her isolation, a widow at 52 with a heart scarred by years of quiet hardship, scraping by as a housekeeper for the wealthy estates on the hill, only to return each night to a house echoing with the ghosts of lost dreams and unpaid bills piling like drifts against her door. As the wind rattled the panes and the temperature plummeted, she heard the distant rumble of engines stalling in the distance, followed by desperate knocks that echoed through the empty night, pulling her from her reverie into a decision that would shatter the barriers between worlds she never knew existed. If you believe in the power of kindness and the beauty of second chances, hit that like button, drop a comment below sharing a time when someone's generosity changed your day, share this video with a friend who needs a reminder of humanity's warmth, and don't forget to subscribe to Gentle Hearts for more stories that touch the soul and inspire the spirit. Elena's life had been a tapestry woven from threads of resilience and quiet suffering. Born in a small village south of the border where dreams were as scarce as rain in the desert, she had crossed into this new land decades ago with her husband Marco, chasing the promise of a better future, only to find herself mopping floors and dusting chandeliers in the opulent homes of strangers who barely glanced her way, their lives a parade of luxury cars and endless vacations while she counted pennies to keep the heat on during winters like this one. Marco's sudden death 5 years prior from a factory accident had left her adrift, her 2 grown children scattered across the country, sending occasional checks that barely covered the mortgage on this creaky old house she clung to like a lifeline, its walls holding memories of laughter now faded, and tonight, as the storm raged, she felt the weight of it all pressing down, the electricity flickering ominously, her pantry stocked with just enough canned goods for a few solitary days, wondering if this was the universe's way of testing her once more. But when the knocks grew insistent, she peered through the peephole to see a group of 15 figures huddled on her porch, their expensive coats dusted with snow, faces pale and drawn under the dim porch light. Millionaires, she would later learn, attendees of a high-profile retreat at the nearby lodge, their private jets grounded and limousines buried in drifts, stranded miles from their penthouses and boardrooms, now reduced to beggars at her door, their usual armor of wealth stripped away by nature's fury. She hesitated, her hand trembling on the knob, for what did she have to offer these titans of industry, these men and women whose bank accounts dwarfed her lifetime earnings, in a home that smelled of faded lavender soap and worn linens, with only a single bathroom and a living room cluttered with thrift store furniture, but something in their eyes, raw vulnerability, a shared humanity exposed by the storm, stirred the embers of compassion that had always defined her, the same fire that had driven her to volunteer at the local shelter on her days off, to slip extra food to the neighborhood kids whose parents struggled as she did, and so she swung the door open, ushering them in with a quiet welcome that masked her racing heart, the cold rushing in like an uninvited guest as they stamped snow from their boots, murmuring thanks that felt foreign in her humble space. The group was a mismatched assembly. Tech moguls with sharp features and Silicon Valley accents, real estate barons accustomed to commanding rooms, a couple of venture capitalists whose portfolios could buy entire towns, all now crammed into her living room, their designer luggage piled awkwardly by the fireplace as Elena busied herself stoking the fire with the last of her wood, boiling water on the gas stove for tea, rationing her meager supplies, crackers, cheese, a few apples, to feed them, her mind whirling with worries about how long the storm would last, how she would stretch her resources without revealing her own precarious existence, the bills tucked away in a drawer threatening foreclosure if she couldn't make the next payment. As the night deepened, the storm's fury isolated them further, power lines snapping under the weight of ice, plunging the town into darkness save for the glow of Elena's candles and the hearth's flickering light, and in that forced intimacy, barriers began to crumble, the millionaires shedding their polished veneers as exhaustion set in, one by one sharing fragments of their lives not in boardrooms but in hushed tones around her coffee table, tales of relentless ambition that had cost them families, health, and peace, a tech CEO confessing his divorce born from endless work hours, a heiress admitting the loneliness of her gilded cage, their stories weaving into Elena's own narrative as she listened, her hands folded in her lap, offering nods and soft encouragements that drew them out like threads from a spool, and though she spoke little at first, her presence, a quiet strength forged in adversity, became the anchor they didn't know they needed, her simple acts of hospitality transforming the space into a sanctuary where titles meant nothing and survival bound them together. Yet beneath it all, Elena grappled with her inner turmoil, the resentment that simmered quietly for the ease these people took for granted, the way they complained of delayed flights while she worried about her leaking roof, the physical strain of fetching blankets from the attic, her back aching from years of labor, and the emotional toll of opening her home and heart to strangers who might forget her come morning, her mind flashing to Marco's grave, unmarked due to costs she couldn't afford, wondering if this act of kindness was folly or fate, as the wind howled accusations through the cracks in the walls. Hours stretched into a timeless vigil, the group huddled under quilts Elena had sewn herself, sharing the warmth of the fire as stories flowed deeper, revealing scars that wealth couldn't heal. A venture capitalist speaking of his estranged son, lost to addiction amid the father's pursuit of fortunes, another recounting the betrayal in a cutthroat deal that left her trusting no one, and Elena, emboldened by their candor, finally shared her own burdens, the immigration hardships that had tested her marriage, Marco's untimely death leaving her to navigate grief alone, the daily grind of cleaning homes grander than her dreams, her voice steady but laced with the ache of unspoken tears, and in that exchange, something shifted, the millionaires seeing not just a housekeeper but a woman of profound dignity, their admiration growing as they marveled at her resourcefulness, turning a pot of soup from scraps into a feast that warmed bodies and souls, the storm outside mirroring the tempests within, building a fragile bridge across divides of class and circumstance. Suspense mounted as the night wore on, whispers of worsening weather, reports from drained phone batteries, fears of being trapped. For days, Elena's supplies dwindling faster than anticipated, her own hunger gnawed by the need to appear unflappable, and subtle tensions arose, a heated debate over a spilled mug, exhaustion fraying tempers, but Elena's calm mediation, drawing from years of soothing frazzled employers, diffused them, fostering instead a budding sense of community, where a billionaire helped chop vegetables in her tiny kitchen, another sang old folk songs to lift spirits, the group inching toward transformation, Elena's kindness planting seeds in hearts long hardened by competition. Dawn crept in reluctantly, the storm's grip loosening as the first pale light filtered through the snow-laden windows, revealing a world transformed into a pristine, silent expanse, roads impassable but the air crisp with promise, and as Elena rose early to brew coffee from her last grounds, she heard the distant hum of engines, growing louder until it became a roar, peering out to see not rescue vehicles but a convoy of 135 cars snaking through the cleared paths, luxury sedans, SUVs, even a fleet of trucks, pulling up in a chaotic symphony outside her home, the millionaires stirring in confusion only to realize it was their doing, for during the night, in quiet texts and calls before signals faded, they had rallied their networks, summoning employees, families, and associates from afar, not just to extract them but to repay Elena's grace in a gesture that would redefine her life. The cars weren't mere transport, they carried supplies, food crates, generators, repair crews to fix her roof and plumbing, financial advisors with offers to settle her debts, and more profoundly, commitments to fund her children's education, establish a community center in her name, and even partnerships for her to lead outreach programs, turning her home into a hub of activity as strangers poured in, unloading boxes, shaking her hand with tears in their eyes, the millionaires themselves directing the effort, their faces alight with purpose reborn from the night's revelations, Elena standing amidst the chaos, overwhelmed by the outpouring, her struggles dissolving like snow under the sun, the emotional crescendo peaking as she embraced the CEO who had shared his regrets, whispering that this was the second chance they all needed. In the days that followed, Willow Creek buzzed with the tale, Elena's act rippling outward, inspiring acts of kindness across the town, her home no longer a symbol of solitude but a beacon of hope, the millionaires staying connected, visiting not as patrons but as friends, their lives enriched by her humility, and Elena, for the first time in years, felt the weight lift, her heart mending in the warmth of community, proving that in the storm's eye, true wealth lies not in fortunes but in the bonds we forge. As the convoy faded into memory, leaving her with a renewed spirit and tangible support, Elena gazed at the melting snow, knowing that kindness, once given, returns in waves that heal the world. If this story has touched your heart and reminded you of the unbreakable power of human connection, please like this video, comment below with your own story of unexpected kindness, share it far and wide, and subscribe to Gentle Hearts for more tales that uplift and inspire. Your engagement means the world and keeps these stories alive. Before we end, drop a comment with your favorite line from this story. Let's see which moments resonated the most.